Hey, welcome back to the Coach's Corner. I'm Andy. This Coach's Corner is powered by Premier HVAC. Make sure you check them out online and in person. We have Jarren Crowder here today.
I'm
How
doing
are you
good. How
doing,
are
my
you?
friend? I'm doing excellent. Jarren here is just a recent. You graduated from Clear Spring, correct?
This is
Or are
my
you?
senior
Is this
year.
your
Yeah.
senior year? Senior at Clear Spring High School over here in Washington County, so just down the road from us here. And you have some big news. You just recently signed to University. Tell me if I'm pronouncing this correctly. University of
Yeah, Montevallo. hmm
Montevallo in Alabama, where you will be a member of the school's
hmm
collegiate fishing team. You have a lot of experience in fishing. Did you grow up fishing? Who got you into the sport? And how do you find the patience to do it is my question, because I
Well,
definitely
well,
don't
the,
have
the patience is
it.
definitely learned, and you kind of have to become obsessed with it first. But growing up, my family
Yeah.
we had a pontoon boat, and we would go to Racetown Lake and in the Potomac River,
Okay.
right over here in Williamsport. And when I was young, we started. Even when I was not even 1 year old yet, I was out in a boat with them, and I kind of grew up, and I would always be fishing for little bluegill, like right near the boat. Occasionally, I would catch a bass, and it kind of spiraled into me, you know, watching YouTube videos as I grew older, and I learned that it was actually more of a science, and um, I started applying those techniques out on the water, and they worked. From there, like that lit the spark. I became really, really obsessed with it, and I'd say around 10 to 12 years old, when I was old enough to really understand what was going on, I did a lot of fishing with my dad. And around 13, I joined a local club in our area 3 weeks before the Maryland State Championship at the junior level. And I placed third in that tournament. And ever since then, it's made me who I am today. And that's how it all started.
You were off to the races. That's awesome. So you kind of touched on a few of the questions that I have. The first one I want to ask is do you have a team at Clear Spring? Like, is it called a fishing team or a fishing? Is it a club? How's
So
it
there
classified?
is fishing, there's high school fishing teams, which are related to
Hmm.
the school itself, and then there are also high school fishing and junior fishing clubs. Um, nowhere,
Okay.
actually, Ligonor High School is the only school in Maryland that has a
Mhm.
team, and that is related through the
Okay.
school, so it's really a sport. But like the club I'm in is called the Junior Potomac River Bassmasters, and it's out of Williamsport. And the nice part about a club is that they can um, accept or decline people to get in, based off, for any reason they may
Mhm.
have to. But yeah, I was a part of the club in Williamsport.
Okay, cool. Do you think fishing will officially become a sport maybe a couple years down the road? I mean, they just put in flag football, so adding new sports isn't a foreign thing for Washington County. Do you foresee that in the future
Hopefully,
possibly?
I would love to help, expand the sport down south in Florida, Alabama, and Tennessee. It's huge. It's definitely a classified sport down there, and tons of schools have it down there. And again, because of our region, we don't really have a lot of lakes and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
harder for people just to get into it. But again, hopefully the sport can grow and expand, and that can become a reality.
Yeah, that would be awesome. You mentioned your fishing clubs that you're a part of and that you've been a part of for a while. Is that how you were invited to compete in the World Finals last year? Talk a little bit about that, where you placed, what the experience was like.
So, um, there's the club that I'm in, they would do tournaments, and that is just for people in the club. Now, if you're
Okay.
in a club or on a high school fishing team, you can go compete in opens, and they're called opens because anyone can enter them. And yeah,
Like
yeah,
golfing.
and you would have to
Okay. Okay.
do well in an open to qualify you for the world championship. And that's how you
Hmm.
do that. So I recently just got back from Alabama trying to qualify for the 2025 World Championship, but we came up short. We didn't qualify, but we have a few more. We have a few more to try and qualify, but we'll see what happens.
You placed ninth at the high school fishing competition last year, right? The MLF. I'm assuming that's
Yes, it
is that
is. Yeah.
Major League Fishing? The Major League Fishing. It says Abu Garcia High School Fishing Competition. Was
Hmm.
that you placed ninth there with your a fellow friend of yours from Williamsport? His name is
Zach
escaping my
Shrimp.
mind right now.
Hmm.
Zach, yes. How was that overall experience? Was that your first time getting invited
Uh,
there?
so again, that was an open, where we placed ninth.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
and
was
then
the
that
open. Okay,
qualified us for the
okay,
World Championship. But I mean, both of
gotcha.
those, the one where we placed ninth was in Florida. Um, Zach's family, they have a house
Hmm.
down there, so we drove down there,
Oh, okay.
and we'd been down there before, and it was in the summer, and we kind of like went around and practiced and tried to figure out the lakes. And then when we went down in the winter, we found some fish, had a good tournament, placed ninth, and that qualified us for the World Championship. We didn't end up doing too hot there at the World Championship. There was 486 teams. That is a ton of
Wow.
teams. I mean, that's like putting
Yeah.
486 football teams into a tournament and then seeing who comes out,
Yeah.
victorious. We ended up around 200th place. It wasn't that good, but that was our first time at that lake, and that was at Lake Hartwell in South Carolina.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about what goes into preparing to compete in a fishing tournament. Do you have to provide your own boat? Does the tournament sponsor provide those for you? How do you mentally prepare? I know you mentioned in previous when I was doing a little bit of research on you, you said that focusing while you're on out on the lake or the ocean wherever you're fishing and map reading
Hmm.
are two of your strengths. How do you prepare to make sure you get the most out of those two strengths in a
So
tournament?
I'll start at the beginning of your question. Um, this is one
Hmm.
reason why the sport is not very, very large. The tournaments do not provide, like the tournament holders do not provide a boat, and boats are obviously very, very
Okay.
expensive. Um, but again, our sponsors, the people who again sponsor us, give us money, they all help with everything like that. And you just have to be, luckily, I'm fortunate enough I don't even have my own boat. We used to, but then there's some family complications. But I'm very close with two people who do have boats, and I fish with them. One is my coach, Brad Ryder, and he allows me to run his boat completely, do whatever I like. But but you can't just go out onto the lake and just start fishing. So that's where the preparation aspect comes into it. Um, Again, I've learned mostly everything I know about fishing from YouTube and then just time on the water. So, um, the whole map reading thing that you talked about, I learned that from YouTube, and then I actually downloaded it on my phone, and I can pull it up right here. And I basically
Yeah.
go find these lakes that I'm going to fish, and there's different tells based on the contours of the water and just the way the lake's set up that can actually key you in on where the fish are going to be. And it can be something super, super uh, difficult to figure out and super, super, um, I'm trying to find the word, like finicky, or it can be something very broad. Um,
Yeah.
what?
Okay.
So like you,
So I guess it
yeah.
depends on experience too. If
So
you've
you can
been there
see these
too. Okay.
contours
Okay.
and
Cool. Yeah.
everything looks all freaky, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, yeah,
To
yeah, yeah.
you,
For
it's
me, I'm,
not.
I'm very, very familiar with it. But for example, uh,
Yeah.
the way this lake bends, it's called a channel swing. And then if you see that little pocket right there
Hmm.
with that little green mark,
Hmm.
I put that mark there
Yeah.
because at this time of year, when it's getting warmer, the fish and all the bait fish, they'll stay in this deeper water, and then they'll go into these little pockets and
Uh-huh.
try and spawn. So around this time of year,
Oh,
that little
okay.
green mark in that little pocket would be a place I would attempt to fish. Um, and then we can
Interesting.
go into rods and tackle too if you'd like.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you do. Do you have
Yeah,
multiple fishing
so
rods that you use, or just one?
I don't even know how many fishing rods I have, like over 20. But to my last tournament, I think I bring 15, and sometimes the deck space on the boat isn't that large, but I think the most you could probably have at a time is around 15 to 20. But you might just be confusing yourself at that point.
Okay.
But every rod,
Yeah.
every bait, every ounce of weight you have on your hook, everything, it all makes a difference. I can explain a few things. I brought a few things here too. So
Okay, cool.
this is a
Sweet.
bait casting reel, okay? And then this
Okay.
is a 5-inch swim bait. And
It looks like
yeah.
a real
So it
fish.
looks very, very similar to a bait fish, and that's what it's trying to imitate. This is usually a
Yeah.
little large. Well, this was you would consider this a
Uh-huh.
large bait. Um, but again, this time of year, the fish are trying to feed up before the spawn because when they're spawning, they can't really go out and eat. They have to focus on trying to protect their young and everything. So they're trying to
Yeah.
eat as much without expending as much energy. So often this time of year, baits like this, they'll work very well. And then this is a different type of rod. This is a spinning rod right here, spinning reel. And then the rods are the same. They're just made differently for them. And then I have a little, it's hard to see. I'm sorry, the quality's bad. This little worm
Oh,
here,
you're good.
it's called a shaky head. And there's actually a weight
Okay.
right
Yeah.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again,
Okay. Yeah, I
you would
can
just
see it
kind
a
of
little bit.
drag
Yeah.
that across the bottom, and it can imitate even a crawfish, even though it's like straight like a worm. It's just something natural that the fish really like. And again,
Yeah.
that's just one
Very
example
cool.
of of how uh, of how serious you can really get into the fine details of fishing.
Yeah. Very interesting. So, now the next question I have for you, do you have an all-time favorite spot that you love to fish, whether it be local or down south? You say you go down there a lot. You said your
hmm
Zach has a house down there. Do you have a preferred spot that you is your go-to,
I do, and I'll give you two.
or do you not want to? You don't have to tell
Well,
anybody if it's a secret.
again, yeah, I'll give you two. I'll give you two. One
Okay.
that's semi close to here is the Susquehanna River in Harrisburg, PA. Up
Hmm.
there, I would say
Okay.
most people could go up there, do a little bit of research on what the fish like to eat and what they usually sit behind the cover that they like. And most people could go up there and catch fish. You could use live bait. In our tournaments, we're only allowed to use artificial lures. Um, but
Okay.
the other place I really, really love is called was Lake Ontario, the Great Lakes, and the St. Lawrence River.
Hmm. Yeah.
We I've
Hmm.
gone up there once once or twice every year for the past 5 years, and there's giant smallmouth bass up there. It's the first time we went up, it was pretty difficult. We didn't really know what we were doing, but ever since going up that first time, we kind of figured it out, and it's been really, really, really good to us, and it's truly special.
Cool. Pretty cool. So you have obviously, do you have aspirations to be a professional fisherman? I know there's tons of professional fishermen out there, and I've seen a
Mhm.
couple tournaments on TV. I find it very interesting to watch. Is that your biggest main goal that you're
Yeah,
striving to
that
get
would
towards?
that's 100% my dream. And going to college at the University of Alabama or University of Montevallo in Alabama is just kind of the next step to that. It is again, these trips are very, very expensive, and that's why, again, we have to have sponsors that
Yeah.
back us. And University of Montevallo, they pay for the gas, our stay. They cover pretty much everything that we
Okay.
need cover on these tournaments, so we can go out there pretty much stress free and just fish to the best of our abilities.
Yeah.
And again, it's a step up in competition too, because kind of like any sport in high school, when you go to the collegiate level, it's a
Mhm.
step up in competition. So um, you're gonna
Right.
have a harder time, but it's not just you against other people; it's you against the fish as well. So yeah, that's my dream, but this is just the next
Yeah.
step.
That's awesome. So, do you have a professional fisherman that you look up to currently, or you like model your
Yeah,
style
there's a
after?
few. I'd say my number one is his name's Jacob Wheeler. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He
Okay,
fishes
I think I've heard the
under
name.
the Major
Yeah.
League Fishing Organization. Um, he's
Hmm.
you could compare him to a Patrick Mahomes. He's he's
Okay.
he's newly gotten like really really good. To whereas you have your KVDs, Kevin Van Dam. who a lot of people are familiar with, and Bill Dance, the guy who wears the Texas hat. But those are more like the
Yeah.
Tom Brady and the Joe Montana of the fishing world. Yeah,
Okay.
those are
The
the
old
old school
school guys.
guys. Like
Gotcha.
fishing has really, really changed with electronics. And Jacob Wheeler, for example, he really knows how to use them, and that's why I like him. And obviously, he's really good. No one really likes anybody who's bad, right?
Right, exactly. Well, Jaron, that's all such cool information. I learned a lot today just talking to you about fishing in general. I'm going to take some of these tips this summer and take my kids out to fish, and maybe we'll actually catch something this time instead of, catching seaweed or, you know, other people's old
If you
baits.
have any questions, you got my number. Just let me know, and I'll give you a spot and some
Yeah,
baits too.
for sure. Sounds like a
Hmm.
plan. Thanks for hanging out today.